Hey YouTube, today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on the highly requested Dark Irregular deck. So this one's my Darkness deck, or GB2 Stride Focus deck, the one that focuses on Cardfight Vampir, the card used by the cool guy in the anime. I forgot what's his name. Inishi, the cool guy, yeah. Basically like the Sailor Moon style dude in the show. So naturally, because it's Sailor Moon style, he'll end up with Tokoha on her team, which has ended up what happening. But anyway, let's move right on to the deck. So this deck focuses on the new Darkness keyword. Kind of like how Pale Moon Magia focuses more extensively on the Magia build. So for Cardfight Vampir, you just get like the main one you want to ride, self-explanatory. This deck has surprisingly very good retire power. He has very good on-stride skill, and there's stride units that have retiring power. So I'm surprised really how much retire power Dark Irregular has. It wasn't up until like this guy came out that, and especially one of the new strides that they got earlier in the year, which really helped them out a lot. But they got even more with this guy. So my other grade 3 is Vampir. He is actually quite affordable as a triple R. And I highly recommend running him as the backup to this guy. Unless you want to run like, I don't know, maybe Reggie or some kind of weird like... I don't really know. Reggie and Amon are kind of like their own thing. We'll get into them later. If you want to see those deck profiles, you can stick around with the channel. But Vampir, I feel, is the best one. He, as the alternate, he has a pretty good on-ride or call effect that's not GB restricted. He has a darkness effect for Vanguard, has a Vanguard, which does give him retire power if he's at 15 soul. So not the end of the world, but Cardfight Vampir is definitely the recommended one that you want to have as the Vanguard. But those are my grade 3s. For grade 2s, like I said before, since this is a darkness-focused deck, I'm running a lot of the darkness-focused, or cards that have the darkness keyword, just to play around with them, see like how it works. So, similar to Genesis, their newer darkness cards oftentimes are not GB restricted. This one's an example, Demented, or Demonted. That's weird. Executioner. So, this guy has darkness, a rearguard effect, that's a main phase effect once per turn. So he's kind of your power gainer, so to speak. He gains up to +5, basically. So he's 14. So with a 7k behind him, he can hit 21 relatively easily. He has an on-call effect. Look at 7 from the top of the deck. Search for a darkness ability, put it in the soul, and shuffle your deck. So he does allow this deck, because one of the problems that the Vampirs had before, up until now, without the darkness stuff, they really had a dead early game. Like, they didn't have a way to build soul the way Amon and Blade Wings can, unless you wanted to run like Dimension Creeper and some other stuff. But yeah, this guy does kind of fix that problem, so definitely 4 copies of him. Next, 4 copies of Double Vampir. Double Vampir is really good. He came out in set 7, so he's not new. But he is essentially their Silent Tom, and he's really good. He's got Darkness ability for Silent Tom. If he's got 15 soul or more, basically, he has a Silent Tom effect for when Darkness is active. And if he's got 6, if you got 6 or more soul, he's a 14k attacker. So he's also a like really good card for them to have. Definitely 4 of. And then the remaining grade 2 spot, this is where you could tech in some other cards. So I went with Succubus of Desire because she has a darkness keyword. I can use her as a booster. You can put her into the soul when your other unit attacks to give one of your units 2,000 power. So she can kind of help build soul, but I don't rarely ever find myself having to do that. Occasionally I will, just to get 15 soul if I'm at like 14 soul or whatever. I don't want to stride into Masquerade or Mask of Demonic, so then I would end up going into her, or I would end up using her effect. So yeah, that's the grade 2s. For grade 1s, this is where it got pretty interesting. So they did get their darkness perfect guard that all like Dark Irregular people have been talking about for a while. So they finally have the ability or a card that they can actually get from the soul. They can retrieve a perfect guard from their soul. The darkness skill is basically in the soul. Choose one of your grade 1 or less rear guards, retire it, and then you can take this card from the soul and add it to your hand. So keep in mind that it does reduce your soul count. So if you do want to obtain these, it will drop your soul down to like 14 soul, 13 soul if there's 2 of them or whatever. So it will make hitting that 15 soul, that magic number, a little bit harder. But it's still a pretty good price to pay if you definitely need the perfect guards. I mean, they're really good. I definitely recommend running these over the unflipped perfect guard. Especially if you're going for a darkness build, because this is darkness sentinel. Next, 4 Succubus of Pure Love, Stride, Enabler, Searcher for Vampir, pretty self-explanatory. Then 3 Edge in Darkness. This guy's actually pretty cool. He's got darkness ability, and then he is your 10k attacker or booster. And then if the number of cards in Soul is 10, he gets the continuous effect of the intercept skill. And he can also intercept from the back row. So he's kind of like a defensive card. He looks pretty cool. He looks kind of like he would fit in with Nubatama for some reason. But I like this card a lot. It's come in handy a couple of times. It replaces Doreen, sort of. Doreen's still okay if you want to run her in here. But I didn't really find place for her. If you do want to run Doreen, it would be the last 2 cards. But in my case, I'm running 2 Dimension Creeper. Just because, like I said earlier, this deck has trouble sometimes hitting the 15 soul, so Dimension Creeper can kind of help out if you ride him turn 1. So yeah, 2 of him. So that's the main lineup for the triggers. It didn't change from last time. I'm still running my 4 monochrome of Nightmare Land because it can help. It can put itself back in the deck to prevent decking out. And then it draws you a card, replaces it. But it does soul charge 1, so it unflips. It's basically your unflip, and it can replace itself if you're at 10 soul. And it basically like recycles itself. So no reason not to run this unless you want to run like 12 critical or something. Draws, I feel like they're not really needed in here that much. So it's either, for me, it's either 12 critical or 8 critical with this guy. So I opted for the latter. So next for One-Eyed Succubus is the Vampir critical, and then for whatever other critical you want to run. Some people will say run the Nightmare Land guy. The reason why I'm not running him is because he's in one of my other decks. I've only got 4 of him. But yeah, you could run that guy if you wanted to make the deck a little bit more competitive. But I don't know, man. Sometimes the 5Ks can come in handy in late game to form like an 11K or something. Call this down with this, or this or anything. So I don't know, sometimes they can be pretty useful. And then 4 heals, and then I am running 2 Enigmatic Assassin, because this thing can really throw people off guard. Like, they don't even know, like, this thing pops out of the soul, and then if I have another one, if you draw into another one, if you draw into the second one, because one will be the starter, and then one will be in the deck. So if you draw the other one, you can use it as a 10k shield. It's not a big deal. The other one, or if you soul charge it, then obviously then you will call out this thing. It's pretty much a grade 0 that can attack for 20k by itself in late game. So when it's called on that turn, so very good card overall. Probably the best starter they have right now. It doesn't use any counterblast. For the Stride lineup, of course, it's 1 Steeped in Sin, Shout Out. So this is the new Stride unit that the Dark Regulars got. This card, I thought he would be hyped up a little bit more than he was. Like, it seems like a lot more people were interested in Fenrir for some reason. I feel like most of the hype around Fenrir has kind of died down now. But this guy's pretty good. You really only need 1 of him. But what I do recommend running 4 of, though, is definitely 4 Gillis. So unfortunately, I only have 2, and he's too hard to find, or he's too expensive. So I only have 2, so I can only stride him once. But definitely, if you want to run a super competitive Dark Regular deck, you definitely want 4 Gillis. That's like most important stride, probably, aside from maybe this guy being the second most important one. So I'm running 2 Mask of Demonic Frenzy. This is almost always the first stride because it is just way too important. It's way too good. You essentially, on On stride, you'll soul charge 2. Then when he attacks, you'll soul charge 2 more. So you essentially soul charge 4 on the turns that you stride this guy. And he has on-hit pressure to retire something if they let him hit. If you've got 6 or more soul, which is relatively easy to do in this deck. In addition to his ability of on-stride to retire something. So, yeah, lots of really good retire power, like I said earlier. Next, this shouldn't really be in here, but I share this stride deck with all my Dark Regular decks, so my one I'm on thing, but I would never stride that with this guy. 2, Fresh Blood Frederick. I guess this should be like a Blizza or something else, maybe a third one of this. 2, Demagogue. Sometimes it's very, very rare that I ever see myself using this guy anymore, but on occasion, sometimes if I want to build power columns, especially with this guy, I will stride into this guy, but I don't really see myself using him all that often. And then one card that also has kind of not become as useful as she used to be is Love Tempest, because Lyra I used to run 2 of her, but she's on hit, and this guy is just so much better than her as a first stride that I kind of never use this card anymore. And then the rest are just the G Guardians. So 3 False Dark Wings. This is probably the better G Guardian that they have, because this thing soul charges 2. And then it's 31k. That's like, it helps you get to 15 soul. And then your late game G Guardian is your Nighttime Gentleman Saint Germain. So that's basically it. Like, if I wanted to make the deck like super tournament ready, I would probably take out these 2 for 2 more Gillis, and then this would pretty much, it would be like 4 Gillis, and then like the rest of this stuff would be the stride deck. But anyway, guys, that's the Vampir deck. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think this deck can actually be really competitive? I certainly think it has potential. It just depends on how people see its usefulness in tournaments. So as anyway, guys, let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.